Hi gang, I'm Todd Nauck. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. Now it's time for the fourth part of our Copic Colors series for this X-Men group shot. I think this is chapter 18. So today, time to color Cyclops. So we're going to color up Cyclops. I'm going to share with you my tips, tricks, process, and Copic marker color codes so that you can know which colors I use when I color Cyclops. And you can maybe use them for when you color your Cyclops illustrations. So let's flip the camera around. Let's get coloring. Okay, so here we got the line art ready to go. So let's start with the skin tones for Cyclops using some lighter shades of the E spectrum. So starting with the E00, much like I did for Jean and Wolverine. As we established in previous videos, our light source is coming from above and just a little bit to the left. Whoops. Sorry for shaking the camera there, gang. My microphone wire got in the way. Stabilize. So I keep in mind where the light source is and where some of the highlights might fall on Cyclops' face and where the shadows would fall on the opposite side of that highlight. So don't need a lot of flesh tones for Cyclops here since it's just his face showing. Now I'm going to use the E01. Just darken things up on the shadow side underneath where the hair falls there, a little bit under the visor. A little bit more under the nose, under the lip and chin. I'm going to use a little bit of pink. I'm going to use a little R11 here on the nose just to give it rosy it up a little bit. Not as much as Jean. But just enough for Cyclops. Now some E000 to kind of blend it all together. Letting the inks of the Copic colors kind of merge and mesh with each other and soften it up real nice. All right, let's hit Cyclops' hair. So I'm gonna start off with some E57. Coming from the root, pulling towards the outer part of the hair. The lower parts of the hair here. Leaving the white of the board for the lighter colors, lighter shades of brown. Going to power down to the E55. As I go over that darker shade of brown with this lighter shade of brown, again, we're letting the inks blend and smooth everything out. Just going to leave a little tiny bit of white there for a little bit of a highlight in the hair. Just a little bit. So let's move to the yellows on Cyclops' uniform here. We're going to start with the Y13. Always keeping in mind that light source and where highlights might fall, where shadows might fall. On the opposite side. Always in keeping in mind the shapes that we're working with and how light would fit on that shape. how shadow would fit on that shape. Whether it be rectangles, circles, even triangles, as we do handle the wrinkles of his costume. Let's see, can't forget this hand over here. As we mentioned in the Jean Grey video, Cyclops has his arm around Jean, hand on hip. So I want to make sure we don't forget that detail. And let's see, we have some belt straps here on his thighs. Not going to see much of a highlight here because so much is behind Nightcrawler. Just a little bit there in the middle, like that. So that's our base shade of yellow, Y13. Did I get that right? Yeah, Y13. Just kind of pumping up some of the color here with a little second coat, a little more vibrancy. All right, now let's switch to I like to do the Y21 as a little more of a golden shade. Putting that on the shadow side of these yellows. Always keeping in mind where the light hits, where the shadow would fall. So I want to maintain that consistency as much as possible, as well as possible. So you have to always be thinking about shapes, overlapping shapes, angles, things like that. And let's see. Going to bring in a little Y00 here it's a very light, much lighter shade of yellow to really kind of blend all this together. Blend into that white a little bit more. Okay. So that takes care of the yellows. Let's go ahead and put the red in because we have it in his visor and on his X logos. Leaving a little teeny tiny highlight right in the center of his visor there. Like it's the ruby quartz reflecting a little bit of light. You have his X logos just full on red there. And that was the R27. Now let's use the blues. Gonna start with a little bit of a darker shade of blue than I've used on some of the previous characters. Instead of a B04, I'm going with a B05 here initially. As a bit more of my base shade of blue. Just a little darker than what we used for Nightcrawler. Just for a little more contrast of blue. Might be more of a subtle contrast, but at least it's something. And just continue to sculpt out all the muscles here. Always, again, got to keep repeating it, keeping in mind the light source and where that light is going to fall. Something I try to think about all the time when I'm doing my illustrations, whether it be for comic books or pieces for fun, commissions. Something that we're that we think about so much, it becomes almost second nature, because I've done it so much. A little bit of reflected light over here. So I'll come in with some lighter shades of blue on this little outer part. Cyclops' arm going behind Jean here. Behind Nightcrawler. We have his Cyclops' legs here. Have to be very mindful of which part is Cyclops, which part is Jean, which part is Colossus here, so I don't color the wrong leg the wrong color. That can be frustrating and possibly a tough fix if that were to happen. It's happened before, it'll probably happen again, but I try to be as mindful as possible if I can. Okay, so that gets our base blue down. Going to come in with a little bit of a darker shade for some of the areas. So I'm going to use the B06 right now for places like underneath the chin, on this side of the neck and jaw, this side of the arm, a little bit there on the elbow. Just thinking about sculpting with the color. I like to color, as you saw here, that was black, and I just put the blue all over the black there. Just really helps create a more saturated look instead of the color over the black actually deepens the black. So instead of just coloring to the black, I went ahead and colored over the black just so that black really pops and we don't have this weird delineation of color. Like the color doesn't look as vibrant because it didn't go all the way. It just went up to the black. So oftentimes I like to color over the black just to ensure that the color goes saturated all the way through the illustration. So that was the B06. Now we're going to lighten up here to a little B12, changing blue color families, but instead of the B0 family, we're in the B1 family. But I'm going to use a little B12 here to bring some of the lighter shade of blue into this white, much like I did with Nightcrawler. So I'm just eating up some of that white. I'm going to come in here with one more shade of blue, a very light shade of blue, to kind of blend all of this together. So that was the B12. Now I'm going to go back to the B0 family and use the B01. And I'm going to use it to kind of tie everything together with a big round of blending, leaving a little bit of the white in certain spots as that direct highlight. But I'm going to use it over here on this one side here for a lighter shade of reflected light. Same here on this side of the thigh. Okay. Now a little trick here. Now if you see right here, I got a little bit of blue into the yellow there. So what I can do is bring a shade of yellow. Let's use this Y00 here. That's maybe not the right shade. Let's try the Y13. You can kind of blend it out a little bit. That blue is pretty intense. I can probably blend that out with a little bit of gray when we go into the shadow tones. But sometimes you can do that with certain colors if you catch it soon enough. You can just use the previous color and kind of blend it out. And it doesn't infect the tips of the Copic marker, which is really nice. So now actually it is shadow time. We can go into the grays. So let's go with some C1 to start off with. Cool Gray 1. To shadow Cyclops' skin tones. Starting off pretty light here, a light shade of gray. I'm going to bump that to a Cool Gray 3 for the darker shadows, like under the hair, across the bridge, and under the nose. Under the chin, this jawline. We'll use the same Cool Gray 3 for the yellows as well. So the bottom side and right-hand side of the visor. Let's see. Here move to his gloves and the straps, so that little earpiece, bottom of this earpiece. Again, since the light's coming from the upper left-ish, we're going to hit on the bottom right-ish, for the most part. I say ish as in, it's a little bit of a loose, it's like a working idea. And I can be flexible to make different changes as necessary. Try to blend out that blue on that didn't need to be on the strap there a little bit. Anything that overlaps, so like heavy underneath those pouches because the pouches overlap the trunks. Bottom part of the shorts here, going to be further away from the light. This inner part of the thigh is going to be further away from the light. Helps kind of give a roundedness to his thighs. We want to try to create that mass and volume. Still leaving a little bit of the yellow over here as a reflected light. Did the same right there. Left a little bit of the yellow. So the gray is here, little yellow there. Shadow, like the light, shadow, reflected light. Okay, let's find a good gray for the blues. Let's start with a Cool Gray 5. So it's going to go underneath the chin, this side of the neck, this side of the arm, underneath that arm, behind the strap, underneath that strap, through the pecs on this arm, the arm going behind Jean. A little bit hit through the midriff here. Less light is going to make it down to there as much as on the pecs. Bring this down through the legs, a little more on the inner thighs, So always considering the shapes of the muscles. Each muscle grouping is a shape. So study your anatomy, learn those shapes. Whether you're penciling, inking, or coloring, you're going to be rendering those shapes. That's the way we think of them, as shapes. Whether they be circle, sorry, he's just adding a little more blue to his shoulder there, or gray, I should say, not blue, gray to his blue shoulder. Just kind of deepen some of those shadows right underneath the chin there, so the face really pops off the jaw, or the jaw pops off the neck, I should say. Let's use a little bit of this gray up in the hair here as well, just in the shadow parts. So underneath the flip of the hair, a little bit here at the base of the temples. Just a little bit there in the nose to give it a little depth. A little bit here on the buckles. Hit these buckles, or little clasps here on these buckles too. And here on the inside, let's put this on the inside of the badge holder. And there we go. Cyclops colored up. Let's flip the camera around and we'll sign off for this video. Dang, and there we have it. Cyclops now added to the mix. Cyclops there with Jean. So, gang, thanks so much for hanging out. Hopefully you learned something. If you liked the video, please give me a thumbs up. Feel free to leave a comment. And don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss out on my future art videos. Wish y'all all the best with your drawing. Keep on drawing. Keep having fun. Take care.